Welcome to the IREL podcast. Are you sick and tired of real estate gurus pitching their next pre-construction deal only to find out years later they were completely wrong? Worried the next overseas conference you spend thousands to attend will only be used to sell overpriced lots and deserted developments? Join thousands of other international real estate seekers who are looking for their place in paradise without the sales pitch. Straight from your host, Taylor White.
Hey, podcast listener. Welcome to the Overseas Property Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Taylor White. I am proud to say this episode is brought to your earbuds, courtesy of my friends at World Nomads. One of the most common questions asked about overseas travel is insurance, and World Nomads has you covered. With the ability to buy online even after you left home, extend and claim online even while traveling, easy ways to buy travel insurance from over 140 countries, and much more. Head on over to irelpodcast.com/world for more information. We hear from an incredibly sharp and one to watch in the overseas real estate niche when I sit down and speak with Liezl Hesketh from The Room Link, which connects renters with rooms and coming to your earbuds from South Africa. Liezl gives us some background on The Room Link being born out of collaborative consumption, the overall concept of connecting renters with rooms, best strategies to earn money from vacant rooms, and nails it out of the park when she breaks down amazing student accommodation investment opportunities that will for sure get your wheels spinning with ideas. Instead of telling you more, let's join Liezl from the Room Link headquarters in South Africa. What's going on, Liezl? It's Taylor White. I'm excited to have you on the podcast straight from South Africa so we can get to know you personally. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hi, Taylor. Well, firstly, thank you very much for having me on the show today. I'm South African. I'm born and bred in South Africa. In my late 20s, I moved to the UK. I lived in France for a short bit. But in the UK, I found my husband, Tim, and we've been married for I can never remember how long, about 10 years, I think. Ask
bliss.
him. He's the one, absolute bliss. He's the one that always remembers. But I've been living in between the two countries because, you know, we've got businesses in the UK as well as in South Africa. But this business that we've been launching is South African based at the moment. Hopefully in the future, we'll spread it out to the rest of the world. But for the time being, it's here. And part of the business also is so that we can one day become citizens of the world.
So, Liezl, I hear South Africa is absolutely beautiful. Which part of South Africa are you based in?
We're based in Pretoria. Pretoria is inland. It is near Johannesburg. Most people have heard of Johannesburg. Pretoria is actually the capital of South Africa, and it's actually a really lovely city.
So, Liezl, I couldn't wait to have you on regarding your business, which is based in South Africa, called The Room Link. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Well, the Room Link is a profile-based platform that allows renters and rooms to connect with each other. So it's a matching site. And the focus is really on people who are single or people who are maybe couples. It doesn't really focus around the sort of family environment. It's not for big houses and things like that. It's very rooms and granny flats and studio apartments and that sort of thing.
So as I'm listening to you talk about it, it also sounds like it might be a great source for student accommodation.
Absolutely. And I think this is the thing. In South Africa, there is a huge shortage of student accommodation. So student numbers are growing year on year, and the big developers aren't able to accommodate all those students, and the universities can't accommodate them, creates a really massive big shortage. Last year, to give you an idea, there were 400,000 students who didn't get into sort of official residences. So that's quite a big number.
So, Liezl, before we dig into a little bit more background on the Room Link, maybe so we have a general idea of our discussion, who are some of your biggest competition in your local market?
Our biggest competition is really just classified advertising. So either newspapers, that kind of thing, sort of offline, And online, the sort of big online classifieds, probably similar to what you know in the US as Craigslist. We don't have that here, but we've got local competitors that are, very similar. Here we know Gumtree. I think the Gumtree are in the US at the moment as well. I think they've moved in there. And then the other local one is called OLX, and they are our biggest competitors.
So I'd love to hear some more of the background story of how the Room Link was actually born.
Okay, so firstly, let's just talk about the collaborative consumption, because it's all based on collaborative consumption, which is also known as the sharing economy. And the sharing economy is a peer-to-peer sharing concept where what one person has in excess, they share with another person who has a need. So one person who has excess rooms in their house and another person is in need of a room. So the collaborative consumption is trying to share those resources between each other. So, and I think the big thing is traditional markets give us two things. They give us long-term accommodation, and that is, typically you go and lease a property or you rent a place for, long-term, 3 months, 6 months and more, and you get short-term. So those are your hotels, your bed and breakfasts, your guest houses, all that kind of stuff. And what we're hoping to do, and we wanted to do with a Room Link, is to actually turn that on its head and say, well, those shouldn't be the only options available in the market, and we should have something in between.
Okay, so then why don't we break down exactly how it works? We know that someone's looking for, let's say, a room, and someone has a room. Break down for us how it works a little bit better.
Okay, so the way that it works is firstly the person who is offering the accommodation now has an option to rent that out flexibly. So they can rent it out daily or weekly or monthly or annually or anywhere in between. So they have different options of renting it out. And the main thing is we're trying to engage ordinary people as well, because there are lots of ordinary people who have houses and they've got extra space in their house that they're not using. And so they should be able to have some sort of platform where they can advertise their rooms. We make it profile based because that makes the whole process a lot more transparent. So the person who's advertising the space, they would say, hi, this is our family, this is what our house looks like, this is what it's near, this is the amenities, this is what it's got. So quite a lot of detailed information, lots of photos, etc. And so that would be on the landlord side. Then you've got the prospective renters, and they also have to go and complete a profile. So they say, hi, my name's Liezl, I'm a student, I'm 19 years old, these are my interests, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I would like, this is the area, etc., etc. They also put a little pretty picture of themselves. And then we've got a matching engine that sits at the back of the website that then matches these parties together and then sends the matching information to each party. So for instance, if you were renting a house and I was looking for a house, it would send my details to you and your details to me. But also, I think one of the frustrations with traditional kind of classified ads is you have to wait for somebody to contact you. So you place the ad, then you wait. You play a waiting game. And what we're saying is, no, we'll put you in the driver's seat. So you as the landlord, you place your ad, but then you get a list of people who are interested in your property, and you can contact them directly. They can contact you, you can contact them. So it just makes the whole process simpler, easier, and more transparent.
So I love this. So do you guys, I know your company's name is The Room Link. So do you just focus on rooms, or can people also do, let's say, flats or apartments or a duplex or something else?
Well, we've got a few types. Now, our primary room type that we have are different types of rooms. So we have double rooms, single rooms, and sharing rooms. And in South Africa, actually, there's a big market for sharing rooms just because people can't afford to have their own room always. But then over and above that, we have the sort of one-bedroom flat, here they call them bachelor flat, a studio flat, little granny flats that are attached to people's homes. That's our primary market. But then over and above that, we also have like big corporate type residences that are student reses, but they're not in control of the university. So they're sort of privately owned, privately developed corporations, and they have sort of dormitory style accommodation and sort of single rooms and things like that. So we have that kind of accommodation too. The one that is not our primary market is really where it is a 5-bedroom house. But if it's a 5-bedroom house and those rooms are being rented out independently, it's sort of like a commune, here they call them commune or a digs, where it's students living together, then absolutely we concentrate on. I think the big thing is we just don't focus on anything where it is a family home. So traditionally, it's for single people and couples, not for families with children, if that helps the distinction.
So I've never been to South Africa personally, but I know it's an absolutely beautiful country from everybody that I've heard talk about it. But I do know that there's some security challenges that are involved with South Africa. Can you maybe speak a little bit more about those?
Yes. It's you're absolutely right. South Africa is absolutely stunning and it's a captivating country and people absolutely love it. But we have a really high rate of crime and we have to consider that. So in developing the room link, we've tried to consider quite a few things that can help people to try and keep themselves safe. So the first thing is online, we've got contracts. So people can go out and actually get a template contract. And so when they're taking somebody in, at least they protect themselves with a contract. And you'd be surprised how many people rent out without a contract. I was really quite horrified. Then the next one is we provide them with guidelines how to keep themselves safe. So really just simple things like, when you getting somebody to come and view the house, make sure that you've checked out their profile first, so don't just let anybody into your house. Make sure it happens during daylight hours. Make sure that if you go into somebody's house that you bring a friend. If they come into your house, make sure you've got somebody else present. Little things like that, but just something that sort of protects them. We also try and protect the contact details. So on most classified sites, if you put your contact details on there, it's available for the whole world to see. So on our side, it's a membership-based site. So it's only people who are looking for accommodation are the people who get access to your contact details. And we're also rolling out very shortly some peer-to-peer reviews so that at least if you had a place and I came to see it and it was nothing like it was described in the advert, or I think you're a bit dodgy, or, there's just something that makes me feel uncomfortable, I can go online and I can actually put that in as a review. And it works both ways. So landlords can review renters and renters can review landlords. So hopefully that will help.
So talk to me. As I'm listening to you, I'm kind of imagining I have a house. I might have an extra couple of rooms that are just sitting idle. I'm not getting any money for them. Talk to me more about your customer base. Is it a person that has some extra rooms? Is it a property management that might seek out other owners who might have a couple rooms? Who's your target base?
Our primary target base are really ordinary people who have extra space. So probably the first thing that you said. But the reality is there are lots of different types of people who rent out spaces. And there are also people who don't want to deal with the sort of administration of renting out people themselves. So property agents use our site. We've got older people, especially, people that today, I spoke to a group of older people, all sort of senior citizens. And I was talking to them about you don't have to downsize if you don't want to. If you've lived in your family home for, 30, 40, 50, some of them 50 years, what you can do is you can stay in your home and take people into your home. And also, coming back almost to looping back to the security thing, when people have students, there's always a visible presence. So you have people on your property all the time. So especially for elderly people, it's quite comforting to know that there's somebody else on the property. And then the other thing that I should probably also mention, because it's unlike most places in the world, I think, I've seen it as sort of in Southeast Asia. I know you've traveled a bit to Southeast Asia. And I know some of those properties sometimes have what was all, in the earlier years were what they called servants' quarters. It's a contained little flatlet somewhere, either attached to the property or maybe attached to the outbuildings or something like that. And, people don't have live-in servants anymore. Who does? So all those rooms are now generally used for storerooms or, I keep the lawnmower in there. And what we're trying to say to people is, no, use that space. That space is so easy to convert and then rent it out. And I think people are slowly cottoning on to, I never thought of that. Or I think the other thing, too, is when I start telling people how much money they can get from their lawnmower room, they're like, oh, all of a sudden now I wasn't interested before, but now I'm interested. So it is ordinary people. But we don't preclude developers. We've got a chap in Johannesburg, and he has 55 listings with us. And he has worked on a regeneration project in Johannesburg Central, and they list all their properties with us. So, and they absolutely adore the room link. They say it's made their lives so much easier. They get a far better quality renter, and they just say they don't advertise anywhere else anymore. This works for them. So really it is across the board.
So why don't we talk about some strategies? Now, you're going to have somebody that has some extra rooms, and then you're going to have somebody who's looking for some extra rooms. So why don't we first start with, I have a house, I have some extra rooms, I go to your website, theroomlink.com. What are some good strategies for me to use when I list on your site?
Okay. I think the most important thing when you're listing is people want to know a lot of information. So I know that it's time consuming providing people with information, but if you just rush through your profile and we say, what are the 3 best things about this room? And you say, it's got a bed, it's got a cupboard, it's got a desk. That's not really very insightful to somebody. So what we're saying is think a little bit, think that you're marketing this property, you're a marketing company. What would you say to make this look inviting? You might say it's got beautifully polished wooden floors, it is a sunny room and the light comes in the morning, it overlooks a beautiful garden, it's got lots of storage, just make it sound interesting. And I think that goes all throughout because unfortunately, to provide details to people, it is going to take a bit of time. And we've worked out it probably takes about 10 or 15 minutes to complete a listing if you complete it properly. So that's the first thing, is complete the listing properly. And that's by far the most important. And then the second most important thing is photographs. And it's another thing that just completely bamboozles me, is that if you ask just about anybody who's ever looked for a property and you say to them, right, so when you were browsing online, how many listings or how many adverts did you click on that had no photos? And they say, no, skip them. And you say, well, okay, so you're listing a property now, so why aren't you putting photos on?
Exactly.
And the other thing is some of them do put photos on, and they've got a photo of the trees down the road, a photo of the driveway, and a photo of the corner of the garden, right?
Right.
Which, great, very artistic maybe, they've Instagrammed them and, all that kind of stuff. But in the end of the day, the guy who's wanting that property, he wants to see the room he is going to be getting. So if you've got 4 rooms that you rent out, do a listing for each room and take a photograph of that exact room and others. And, that's fine to have the driveway and down the road and the garden and the swimming pool or whatever it has. That's great. But the living areas and the room is what people want to see. And I think the other thing that people need to think of, they need to think of, I am a renter. What would I like to see as the renter? And when you're a renter, very often renters come from a different city. So especially amongst the students, students, they don't want to study in the town they grew up in. They want to spread their wings and go somewhere else. So, you might be a Pretoria student and you're going to study in Cape Town. You don't want to do a trip to Cape Town to go and find your accommodation. You want to sit in your armchair at home. You want to browse the site. And you want to see photos of exactly what's on offer, and then you can make an informed decision, and maybe you choose one, and that's the one you go and have a look, or you get somebody to go and have a look at it. But the idea is ultimately, and one day we want to put on videos, so that's the next step. So it is an armchair experience where people can do their property hunting from the comfort of their own home.
And I'm just curious, as the business owner of the site, how important is it to price things correctly? Do you think pricing it is very important? Do you think if you add great, I hate to say sales copy, but great sales copy, beautiful photos, write a great listing, do you think that's more important, or is price more important, or what does that fit in?
I think it's a bit of both, but I think if you've got a fantastic property and you have got bad photos, you're not going to get your price. If you've got a fantastic property, you might even get a slight premium for that property because you're enticed. It's a supply and demand. You get more people interested. Because more people are interested, you probably would get at least the top of your range. But we find that normally the people who drop their prices are the people who have no photos or bad photos. So there's definitely a link between them.
So I love your addition that you said is coming soon as far as video. So people could add a video of their property, like maybe walk through. And I'm just curious, as I've seen it on a couple other sites, do you offer any services to where if someone's listing it on there, they say, you know what, I'm not great as far as descriptive writing. Do you offer any services with maybe some writers to where people could commission those writers to write their ads?
It's funny you say that. In South Africa, the internet is still young, shall we call it. We don't have access to the kind of broadband that the first world have seen. So if you
Right.
compare the UK and America and things like that, you're probably, I would say, on average, 5 years ahead of South Africa. So think of where the US was 5 years ago. That's where South Africa is today. Okay. So we still have people who are scared of shopping online, people
Of
who don't want to
course.
put their credit card details on. We've got people who don't have access to broadband. They've got 3G on their phones. They go to a coffee shop and that's where they access the internet. And because of this, people are just not used to doing everyday things online. Me living in the UK, my entire life is online. There's nothing like, if I want to phone my local optician, the first thing I do is I hop on the internet and see what's their telephone number, do they have a website? But here, people don't have that. So the whole attitude of people are different. And in the beginning, when we launched, we had the intention of, well, it's a self-serve website. We tell people about it. They'll go on and they'll put their listings on. But the reality is they don't, because they are afraid of, they're comfortable with Gumtree because they know it. But the room link, oh, no, I'm not quite so sure. So we actually offer a service at the moment free of charge, and we'll do that until we have a critical mass, after which we might have to start charging for it. But at the moment, anybody who wants to list their property can list with us 100% for free. All they do is they contact us, they give us the details, and we do it for them.
So, Liezl, the first thing that comes to mind as I'm hearing you speak about your awesome company, and it's kind of similar to, and this is just my impression of it, maybe a little cross between like an Airbnb or a couch surfing for those that have done some kind of long-term travel. But the phrase that comes to mind is flexible renting options. Can you talk more in your own words, kind of what you think as far as it being flexible, or it's a little bit different than some traditional means?
Yes, I think so, because Airbnb, let's just quickly talk about Airbnb, that kind of model in South Africa. People here, because, coming back to the security thing, people are a little bit nervous. They don't want different people in and out their house. Today we've got this person, tomorrow we've got that person. So they are generally, our market, we target sort of the 2 weeks plus. So even though you can advertise your property daily and you can take in people daily, we sort of say 2 months to a year is really the option that we're talking about. And I think if you think of what we have today, is we have the short-term rental markets, and the short-term rental market is really expensive. It's hotels, and you pay a massive premium to stay at a hotel or a bed and breakfast or a guest house. And then you've got the cheap option, which is the long-term option, but you don't have the sort of flexible option. So to give you just a few examples, if I am a person who lives in Cape Town, but I have to travel to Johannesburg, I'm a commuter, so I've got to be in Johannesburg from Monday to Friday, and I've got a home in Cape Town, and I'm just looking for somewhere where I can stay every week, Monday night to Thursday night. That's a sort of flexible option. Or for instance, if you're a contractor and you've got to be on site so many days a week, and, living in hotels, I've done it. I've worked on large projects where you're away from the home and you live in and out of suitcase. And all you wish you had somewhere where you could just leave your toothbrush and leave a towel and leave a this and leave a that. Just leave your everyday stuff. And there are some people who are saying, well, you can do that at our home. Just, come every Tuesday night or every Thursday and Friday night or whichever. But a lot of people are opting to rent out their property during the week. And then on the weekends, they've still got the property for themselves on the weekend. So it gives them that little bit of flexibility. But we don't prescribe to people. We don't say, well, you have to rent it out this way or that way. We say, we've built our sites in such a way that you can rent it out whichever you want. And you can have 3 different prices. So you can say, well, if you want to come daily, we will charge you X. If you want to stay weekly, we'll give you a bit of a discount and you can pay this much. If you stay monthly, you stay 2 months or 3 months or 5 months, then it's a different price again. So we have a different pricing model based on how long you want to stay. And so each landlord can decide how they charge and what the pricing structure is.
So, Liezl, I'm going to throw something out at you and you see if I'm on the right track. Let's say I want to target a specific market, and listening to you, what I want to target is student accommodations. So let's say that I buy some furnished houses or some furnished apartments, and instead of renting out one apartment to one person, let's say I have 4 bedrooms. So I'll target 4 students. So that one apartment or one house, 4 students, because there's 4 bedrooms, can stay in it. And instead of renting out per night or per week, because they're in, let's say, college, I always called college there. They're in college. They're going to be there for maybe 9 months. What do you think about that opportunity?
Well, we have obviously a lot of people that have exactly that scenario. And what they do is they would sign here normally for students, they would sign a 10-month contract. There are some providers that make you sign 12 months, but generally it's 10 months. So starts in February, ends in November. And you would then rent out each one of those rooms independently to a different student. And the other thing, too, when it comes to the student market is you can actually sort of increase your yield by taking in 2 students in one room. So you could actually say, well, I've got a 4-bedroom house, but the 1 bedroom's really large. So that one we're going to put 2 single beds in, and it's a sharing room. And as long as those people have space to study, it's quite all right. But then, you see, this is where it gets interesting. So generally, the accommodation providers, and we've specifically got one in Johannesburg that I'm thinking of, they've always had this, well, people stay there for 10 months. And to be honest, after 9 months, they're out because they've written exams and they've disappeared home or on holiday or something. So for 2 months, that place is empty. And we're saying, well, this is now a perfect opportunity to rent out those exact same rooms and rent them out flexibly. So now you have your 10 months rented out to a student. But now the other 2 months that are available, let's say it's a Cape Town university, Cape Town over Christmas, which is the summer holidays here, there is such a huge demand for rooms, and rooms are so expensive. So you can actually charge a tourist price for 2 months. So you're increasing your yield once again, because now you can rent it out for the 10 months to a student and 2 months to tourists.
Liezl, you're extremely sharp. I love it. I'm going to throw something else at you, and let's see what you come back with. Maybe provide some numbers. And I know these numbers could be pretty tough, but provide some numbers maybe per bedroom or sharing rooms or something so we have a better idea in our head, kind of the things that we're talking about.
Interesting you asked that. Just the other day, I'm a serial property hunter, I have to say. Even though I don't always have the money, I'm always looking out to see what deals are available and, would this be a good opportunity? And there's one that I came across. So I did the numbers on this one, so I sort of know them. There was an 11-bedroom house where every room had an ensuite bathroom, which is perfect for students. I guess it must have been a guest house or something. That here was for sale for 4.2 million rand. Now that's about just over 400,000 US. And for a single room, you can get anything from about 2.5 to about 3,500, depending on the proximity to the university. Now, this one is right near the university, so you probably get over 30,000 rand. Once again, about 280, 300 US. US is about 10 to 1 to the South African rand, so it's quite easy to calculate. If you share, you would think that you would take the room price and divide it by 2, but not so. If you share a room, so the sharing rooms, they pay about 2/3 or even 4/5 of the price of a full price room. So the people who share probably pay about somewhere between 1,900 and 2,500 rand. So let's call it 2,200 rand for a sharer. And when I calculated that if you took the 3 biggest rooms, you put sharers in them and the others are singles, then you could probably earn an income on that of approximately, I think I calculated it to be about 36,000, thereabouts 35, probably up to about 40,000 rand per month. And that's a pretty good yield, because that's a 10% yield. I know that's a gross yield. There's probably some costs to come off that. But I think anybody who's got any interest in property would probably agree that that's a pretty good return.
And I'm just curious, if you owned this, let's just pretend that we're talking about the same exact place that you're just talking about. Would you include things like electricity, things like internet, like maybe even like board, so as far as breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Once again, it's a flexible option, but the way that our profiles are structured is you can say this price includes bills, this price includes internet or cable TV or swimming pool or access to this. So there's like a whole sort of half a page of things that you can say this includes or excludes the price. The one thing that becomes a little bit tricky in South Africa is electricity. Electricity for South Africans is pretty expensive. So what lots of these places do is they will say, right, for the house, we provide prepaid electricity, because a lot of houses here have prepaid electricity meters, and we will give you X amount towards your electricity. So if the people go and, do things that use a huge amount of electricity that they shouldn't, or they're not switching off lights or doing whatever they got to do, then the rest of the residents have to top it up themselves. So that's the only one that's normally contentious. But you also we've got a few ladies, sort of typical old boarding houses, they provide full meals. So all you do is she comes in, they do your washing, they do your food So, it's like a glorified hotel, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like living at home. It's like home from home.
So talk to me. I know that this isn't really part of it, but what about mortgages? Do you guys have mortgages in South Africa? Hearing you talk about this has really piqued interest. Love your company and like what it's doing. Also, as far as like investment aspect, I love that angle as far as the student accommodations. Would I pay cash for something there, or are there local mortgage loans available?
There are local loans available. I had a quick look because it's not really my area of expertise
Right,
because
right.
I'm a South African citizen. But I did have a quick look today, and before because I thought you might ask the question, and it seems like non-residents can get mortgages, but they can get mortgages up to 50%. So you can't get the full amount, but you'd have to get a non-resident bank account in South Africa, and so the funds can come from abroad, but they have to get paid into this South African bank account then to pay the mortgage.
Love
Does
it.
that make sense? Yeah.
Of course it does. And it's getting tougher worldwide to even get mortgages. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there because I know that you also, I could tell by the excitement in your voice, are always probably looking at properties and running numbers and seeing if I can get a loan or the creative financing route. So I knew that you'd probably have a great answer for that.
Yeah. I have to admit I am the world's worst serial property addict, I think is probably the best way to call it. When my husband and I go on holiday, one of the first things I've got to do is I've got to go and have a nosy in all the estate agents' windows to see what property costs in this area. And even the other day, just there was a property across the road from us that was on show here on a Sunday afternoon. It's fantastic. It's perfect free entertainment on a Sunday afternoon. They have all the show properties, and you can go and have a look at them for free. You just go and nosy on. And when I told my husband that I'm going to go and have a look at this, he just came back and said, "Don't buy it."
So, Liezl, I would love to wrap up the call, but I have one more follow-up. I know that you're based in South Africa. Do you have any plans to expand this beyond your current market?
We absolutely have plans to expand it. We would love to expand it. At the moment, I think South Africa is a nice market to learn because it is a challenging market. We're learning a huge amount in this market. And our choices are either to expand to sort of the first world, so Europe, maybe take it back to the UK, take it to the US, Australia, New Zealand, that kind of places. But we haven't done a huge amount of research in those. But the one place we have looked at is the rest of Africa. And the rest of Africa is a huge emerging market. And they have the same student challenges that South Africa has. They're smaller markets, except for maybe Nigeria, they've got a far larger market. So we've sort of got our eyes on a few places. And watch the space. Let's hope we can take it to another few countries.
Liezl, I love our chat today. Do you have any final tips or pointers that you might want to share about the things that we talked about?
Yes, I think the main thing that I want to say is even if you aren't in South Africa and you can't necessarily, you don't necessarily want to use our services, we still have on our website, we've got lots of tips for people who want to rent out property. So even wherever you are in the world, if you want to rent out a property in your home, there are lots of tips and things that you can find on our blog, which is just www.theroomlink.coza, so co.za/blog. And we've got lots of tips there, lots of ideas and things like that. So I would encourage people to have a look. But also if you're planning to come to South Africa, especially we've got lots of foreign students that come to South Africa. And we've got lots of medical students that come from all over the world to come and work in our hospitals because they get different types of experience and, tropical diseases and that kind of thing. Get yourself registered. We've had quite a number of people coming from Europe and coming from the States, coming to work in South Africa for a while. There's no reason why you can't use the Room Link and get a profile on and get your renter's profile done.
And then what are some of the best ways to follow or else connect with you, Liezl?
We on so many social media, so there should be a quick and easy way to find us. So we're on Twitter, and it's just at the Room Link. We're on Facebook, so it's just facebook.com/the Room Link. I'm on Twitter personally as well, so my handle is just Liezl Hesketh, so I'll spell that because that's not an easy one for your people. It's LiezlHesketh. We're also on Pinterest, we're on Google Plus, and obviously the website. So it's just theroomlink.com. Remember the THE at the front because it's the Room Link, not just Room Link. And then finally, they can email me. So anybody who wants information or wants additional information, or they want us to help them with a listing, they can just email us at info@theroomlink.com.
Love it. I can tell you are extremely sharp and one to watch. Promise me before you get too big and take over Africa, maybe in 3 or 6 months' time, you're going to come back on and give us an update.
Oh, that would be fantastic. I'd love that. Thanks so much.
Absolutely fantastic. And I want to thank Liezl once again for coming on and talking about her great niche business that focuses on the sharing economy that is creating waves in South Africa. You can head on over to our site for complete show notes, easy ways to follow Liezl, and more information about her fantastic business, The Room Link. And don't forget, if you're either on the road or thinking about overseas travel, I encourage you to check out my friends at World Nomad. With the ability to buy online, file claims from the road, and 24-hour emergency support, they have what you are looking for. Head on over to irelpodcast.com/world for more details.
You have been listening to the IREL Podcast with Taylor White. Be sure to hit up irelpodcast.com for more. That's irelpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.